It's the morning of April 28th, 2018. Calvin Castine at the Rouse's Point American Legion. And we're here quite often for American Legion and Veterans functions, but we're here for an entirely different thing today. And we've got Mr. Bill Badger. That's your name, sir?
I'm Bill Badger, and I'm with the Rutland Railroad Historical Society. And we have a convention once a year along the line of the old Rutland Railroad, and this year we're in Rouse's Point.
I think this is the third time I've come to one of your conventions. Be quite a while ago now. There was one at the Champlain Knights of Columbus, and a few years back there was one in Malone that I attended. And
Yep.
So you do get to the New York side of the Rutland once in a while.
We've been in Ogdensburg a couple times, Malone a couple times, and last year we were in Rutland, and then we were in Chatham, New York before that. So we try to move around because we have members from all over North America, and actually one from the UK, and it's easier for the guys from, say, Long Island to get to somewhere down south, and it's easier for the guys from Montreal and Ottawa to get up here. So we try to spread it around.
Does anybody come by train?
In the past they did. I don't know if they do anymore or not.
Amtrak goes by here in
Yeah,
Rouse's Point.
yeah.
So it's
I've actually taken the train from Rouse's Point. As we came by the station coming in, I said, I've gone from here, but it was D&H days. It was just the week before Amtrak.
Oh,
I was riding rare mileage before it went over.
About 20 years ago, we were doing a story on what was left of the D&H at that time, and we were very fortunate and got to ride in the engine and went down, went from here to Plattsburgh and with the camera running. So.
Nice. Too bad they didn't take it along Red Rocks, because that's really nice along the edge of the lake. That's spectacular.
Yeah, we could have, but then we had to get back. So it's a matter of being able to get home.
Well, I took the train from Whitehall to Rouse's Point, and then changed at Rouse's Point, got southbound back to Whitehall. That was my trip.
Well, Whitehall and Rouse's Point have a big connection as far as the D&H goes. There's a lot of people that work back and forth. That was their spur.
Okay.
Yeah. So Rutland. So this is devoted entirely to the Rutland Railroad.
Pretty much. I mean, they're anywhere you go, they were always connecting railroads. So there's some, there'll be talk about the D&H or the New York Central or something that connected with the Rutland, but it's specifically for the Rutland.
Yeah, I see you've got an agenda today. At 9:45, there'll be a welcome here at the business meeting, and at 10 o'clock, Milk Train stories. And of course, Milk Train was a big part of what happened up here. And, in fact, a lot of these little communities probably wouldn't have had a train stop if it weren't for the milk.
Yeah, originally the line was important because it was connecting the Great Lakes to salt water. And if you look at an early map of the U.S., New England, that was the importance of the trunk lines, is they were trying to connect before the St. Lawrence Seaway. They were connecting the Great Lakes with the ocean. And the Northern Railroad was built across in 1849 to do just that. Guys, Lake Champlain, and there were connections from Lake Champlain back, down across New England. And that was its importance. But it goes through a rural farm area that didn't have a lot of industry. So, like you say, it was milk, and then once the milk dried up, there wasn't a whole lot to support a railroad here. Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But there was a time, all these little towns, on our last, I think it was in the Ogdensburg convention, we ended up in Chateauguay, and looking at all the little industries that were in a small town, all supported by the railroad. And they had all grown up there. And there was the fuel dealer and the originally coal and then oil. There was the farmers' grain and feed and lumber, and all that stuff all came by train. So there was a whole little commercial center around the rail yards that eventually went to trucks. Or small towns with cars, you didn't need all that in a small town. You went to a bigger town. And so in its day, it was a really important lifeline to the rest of the world.
Oh, yes. And I know Andy Claremont's got a little, I'll call it a diorama, and I want to look at it of the Sheridan and Champlain. And,
he's got some great stuff there.
He does. I saw the last thing he did when we were in Malone. He'd done a little type of thing there from Malone area, and he's just amazing with the work he does.
Yeah.
So the the ONLC was known here before it became the Rutland, the Ogdensburg and Lake Champlain, and then when did that become part of the Rutland?
They put together the Rutland Railroad from a series of smaller railroads about 1900. So I'm in Manchester, Vermont, and that's still known as the B&R, the Bennington and Rutland, because that was the predecessor line to it, and it's still. I think when Vermont Rail runs it, we're going down on the B&R. 100 years later, it's still a B&R.
Oh, why change it now?
Right, that's right.
And unfortunately, at this end of this side of the lake, wasn't too much into the 1960s that it stopped operating over here.
Yeah. The strike was 1961, and that was the end of it. The state of Vermont bought the Vermont track, which saved everything from Burlington down to Bennington and over to Bellows Falls. But Vermont, I think, was very far-sighted at that point, and they were smart enough to realize without that, if they didn't save it, and within a few years, that was a good move. Yeah. But they saved from Norwood to Ogdensburg of this line was saved, but nothing else was that good.
No sense in having tracks if you got nothing to run it, no excuse to run it across.
But then things change, and all of a sudden it's not. Oh, I wish we had them again.
Well, over on this side of the lake, for at least 50 years, they've been talking about a rooftop highway for vehicles. They like to have the interstate going north-south. They want an east-west rooftop highway. Well, the first rooftop highway came in here in 1849, and that was
the railroad.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
We already had that. We've been there. We've done that.
Very true.
So, do you have an office in this organization? Are you an officer, or what do you?
You call it organization. It's an unorganization.
A disorganization.
It's a disorganization. We have. It's whoever steps up to do whatever.
Whoever doesn't show up gets elected.
The biggest thing we do is our quarterly magazine, the newsletter, and we have an editor, and we have a membership chair, and I seem to be in charge of publishing now, getting it to the printer, and it's just those of us who stepped up and said we'll do it, and it's. Any of you are old enough to remember Utah Phillips' Moose Turd Pie story? He who complains gets the job. That's the way we seem to work. You think you can do a better job? You're on.
All those in favor? Aye.
Right.
See Mr. Jim Jones here trying to harass us, but we'll just ignore him if you don't mind.
Right. Look out, he'll be in it soon.
Yeah, I know. He'll try to grab my camera.
I'll figure out a way to get in there.
He'll grab my camera and take right over. We know Jim Jones there. So you're going to be taking some site tours. A little nasty weather today, but obviously the D&H just up the road here. That'll be one of your stops. Yeah, I see it today.
Yep.
And Moore's Force Station and the Moore Station and Yard. Of course, that's probably Larry Martin's going to be giving you a little tour
I'm sure.
there.
Yep.
And then a happy hour. Boy, you guys are. So it's just it's a 2-day event. Well, Sunday is just a little presentation in the stations of the ONLC at the Comfort Inn in Plattsburgh. So you're going to be moving on to Plattsburgh tomorrow?
That's where most of us are staying. That's where those of us that got here early had dinner last night there, and sort of took over the dining hall. And so that's sort of our send-off. And Laz Gangas and I will be giving a talk on stations. We're both architects, so we talk about buildings.
Laz kind of talked you into talking to me today.
That's right.
I've been there, done that. He didn't make that mistake again, did he?
No, he organized it, so he passed it on to me.
Okay. Anything else that I should ask you here that I should be smart enough to? Oh yeah, let's see. You said you got membership people. How does the person become a member?
Well, we have there is a website, and our membership chair is sitting over there
on the chair.
Very
appropriately.
Signing people in. And at this point, it's $15 a year, which gets 4 issues of the magazine.
And that's got all kinds of good stuff in it.
Well, that's just the flyer for
today.
For the convention.
Uh-huh.
The magazine went out a week and a half ago.
Now, do you keep back issues?
Yes. And there's a guy here who messed his leg up, who's on a wheel, somewhere. Will Davis, he's the back issue guy, and he has
So you've got a,
good supply of most of the back issues.
so you have a list of what articles might be in the back issue.
Yes.
So somebody
Yep, Jeff's
looking for
done an
something.
index.
So,
And
so somebody would know what they're looking for. in
So
the back
specifically,
issue.
if you're interested in ONLC or something, you could look at the index and figure it out.
Okay. Or should be able to figure it out.
Should be able to figure it out.
You're giving me too much credit there to say I would be able to figure it out. Okay, anything else, Bill?
That's it.
All
Have a
right.
good time.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Nice
So is
meeting
that
you.
the test run? Now you got to turn the camera on.
Moving right along. Don't move on me, you fella. That camera doesn't know you're moving. So, what's your name?
What about your camera assistant?
She's at home this morning.
So you're the chief cook and bottle
Yeah,
washer.
she's a D&H fan. So if this was D&H, she'd be all over this place. So.
Well, it's one of the other railroads in Rouse's Point. We had the D&H, we had the Rutland, we had the Napierville Junction line. ONLC came in here, Ogdensburg and Lake Champlain, and that's why we're here today.
That's right. And your name?
James R. Jim Jones.
Okay, I didn't know which Jones you were going to call yourself today. And as we've seen, hometown cable viewers know, you've done a whole slew of videos, and you're continuing to do videos on railroad, and that, of course, includes a lot on what you've done with the Rutland.
Yes, absolutely. We did an Ogdensburg and Lake Champlain revisited video. In fact, some of the people here in the group were some of the content experts for that, so that came out 5 or 6 years ago. And Delaware and Hudson was just finished and marketed last fall for Christmas. So, and the next one is
Yes?
the Keysville, Sable Chasm and Lake Champlain Railroad.
Okay.
That's also in your coverage area.
Oh, yeah, we'll be down there. You're going to have a dedication on the 19th, is it, of May?
May 19th, the Anderson Falls Heritage Society at 96 Clinton Street in Keysville is opening their museum at 10 o'clock. That'll be open till 1:30, and then we'll all head over to the former station, which is the North Country Club restaurant, for the sign unveiling at 2 o'clock on May 19th.
Okay, so,
Now, we're competing with Prince Harry's wedding that day.
oh, is it? I wasn't aware of that.
I hear that because of the time difference, it'll be much earlier.
Okay, good.
So I think you can attend one event by television,
Yeah.
and then the other one live and in Poison.
Yeah, I don't know a train fast enough to get us from England over to here in that short period of time. So, Rutland is just one of the many interests you have. Do you belong to many of these clubs?
Yeah, I'm in a number of the, not just railroad, but historical societies. I'm a member of the Anderson Falls Heritage Society in Keysville, and the Rutland Railroad Historical Society, and some Chittenden County ones on the other side of the lake. So I would say quite a few, including the Colorado Rocky Mountain Railroad Club.
Yeah, which is where you started doing
It's where the video stuff started. I'm a native Vermonter, but yeah, I spent 14 years there, so quite a lot of what we have is Colorado, sure.
Yeah. So I purposely wore this shirt today. I got to point this out. It's kind of almost, if it's not a
Rutland green?
Rutland Railroad green.
Oh, yeah.
And this is not a Rutland
hat is-
Railroad hat, but it's got the colors here. This is Corner Gas, one of my favorite TV shows out of Canada. But it's got the right colors on. And when I saw Larry Marnes arrive with his Rutland cap on, I said, I picked the right colors today.
Well, I guarantee you, you're the only one with that hat at this event.
Well, so far, you never know who might show up. Might be some Canadians coming across.
There are some people from north of the border coming south of the border.
There you go, see? So, fun time will be had by all, Jim?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking time. I know we'll see you on the 19th, and maybe we might even see you if we take a little trek along the old Rutland in Clinton County one of these days.
Did you get some of the history of the Ogdensburg and Lake Champlain and why we're here?
Today?
Yeah, it was one of the first standard gauge railroads this far north, so, and it was amazingly well designed.
1849.
You know, had the mile-long bridge over here that crossed over to Alberg.
Yeah, and there was a fishing pier there for a while. That's kind of fallen into
Till
the-
2011. Yeah,
Well, yeah. So, but you look at the Google map, you can still see from the aerial view, you can still see where that railroad track
Yep,
crossed.
yep,
And of course, there were dual tracks there too, as you very well know.
yep. Gauntlet tracks, they called
That's
it.
what they call them?
Yeah, because they weren't actually side by side. The rails were intertwined together. And that's because the Rutland and the Central Vermont Railroad, who shared the bridge, were not willing, because they were actually competitors of sharing the rails. Now, it seems kind of silly, but you got two sets of tracks right next to each other, but they're not side by side. They're within each other. So one railroad ran on one track and the other ran on the other, as they called it, gauntlet style.
So you had, let's say my thumb is the Rutland and what's the other one?
And here's Rutland, and here is the
So
Central Vermont Railroad, and they're within each
And
other.
then on the other one, it's the other one. So
Yeah, they aren't side by side like tracks,
Right, right.
because they didn't have room on the bridge for
They
that.
might have been inches or a foot, no more than a foot apart. They weren't
Yeah.
very far apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just an interesting little picture when you see that. Yeah. So anything else, Mr. James R. Jim Jones, that we should mention while I got you on the camera?
Well, thanks for being railroaded into coming here today.
Well, okay, you've just been waiting to use that line, haven't
Yes,
you?
I have.
Thanks, Jim.
Did you have it?
Everybody hear me now? No. I hate this. Anyways.
Find glasses?
No, I borrowed, where I used to have cookies on them,
If anyone found a pair of reading glasses or lasses, borrowing these from that wolf guy.
So welcome everybody to our annual Rutland Railroad Historical Society Convention. As we know, we're in Rouse's Point. We've got some good food here, please eat it. Will Davis, my counterpart, we're gonna get some business stuff we gotta get out of the way. But before we start, I'd like to introduce someone. Clem Trombley, he's 86, he's sitting right here in the red cap in the front row. He was the last bridge tender on the Rouse's Point Bridge. So there's some history there. So, we'll start with Randy. Get that one? Yes. Randy, are you?
I don't need that.
Yeah, you do. Glasses.
You have to.
You gotta do it up here, not back.
Hello, my name is Randy with Tramboys. I just wanted to mention, I live in Middlebury, and I went and met with the college a couple weeks ago about the archives, the bullet collection. Had a good talk with them, and there was a big in their opinion anyway, there was a big misunderstanding about what happened a couple of years ago when everybody got upset and they were going to move the collection. The reason they wanted to move it is because nobody goes and sees anything. They never see anybody there to look at the collection. But they're more than happy to keep it, and they've got a new fellow in there that's the archivist who's doing a terrific job. I went through a bunch of the stuff the other day, and they've actually taken all the blueprints, flattened them out, put them in archival folders. They're happy to spend some money. They got plenty of money, and they want more stuff if people are interested in giving it to them. So I think they're sincere. The guy's really a young guy and a go-getter. It seemed like that's the archivist there now. But what they want, they don't want any like scrapbooks and newspaper clippings. They want just original stuff from the Rutland is what they're looking for. But they don't have any interest in giving it away. It's just that nobody ever comes and looks at it. So they said we should give it to somebody a place that people are going to come see it. But in the meantime, they're more than happy to keep it, and I think they've got good intentions. So I just wanted to let everybody know it's a different than what was originally thought.
Did you get any sense from them whether they would reject material from New York State?
Not at all. No,
Okay.
they want Rutland stuff.
Okay.
They don't want other railroads. They just want original stuff mainly.
Okay.
They just thought the curator now, anyways, thought that they were getting too much. They didn't call it junk, but just scrapbooks,
Yeah.
newspaper clippings, magazines. They said we don't want to deal with that.
Right.
But if it's an original paper, photos, blueprints, I think they're really gonna take care of it. They've got the money to do it, and, you know, at Millbury College, I don't know if you know, but money's no object. If they decide to do something, they don't care. They've got plenty of money. And, you know, I got a good, personally anyways, I got a good feeling from the guy that he's sincere, and he was apologizing right and left about what happened before, and just said, you know, we'd really love to have people come look at this stuff, but nobody's coming. So that was their main reason for wanting to, they didn't want to give it away, they just wanted to put it in a facility like the Vermont Historical Society or somewhere where they thought people might use it more. For what it's worth anyways.
Is there a catalog or anything that we do?
Yeah, it's online. If you go on, just look up special collections at Middlebury College, just Google it. They have a whole catalog of what's there. And there's not a huge amount of stuff there, just to let you know. It's not a couple hours you can go through everything they got there.
They've also digitized a lot of photos that you can see online as well.
I went in there and they didn't know me from Adam, and I just said, can I look at this blueprint? I was looking, I think one that Steve Mumley put in there. And I mean, they had 3 people running around trying to find it for me, and they couldn't be any nicer. And so I think their heart's in the right place. They're only open, I think, 1 to 5 on weekday afternoons, I think is when they're open. But you can go, you can make an appointment. I've gone there at night before, made an appointment and looked through stuff. And they've got a lot of student aides there that'll they'll just do it. They just seem very pleasant and really wanted to get the stuff out there for people to look at.
Where are the archives?
At the Middlebury College Library.
Your library?
Yeah.
So just ask for the archives.
It's in the it's downstairs.
Oh, Will Davis building.
Yeah.
Will Davis Memorial.
But it's top-notch, first-class operation, and the stuff's in good hands, in my opinion, anyway.
Thanks, Randy. Bill, would you like to say your piece too?
You? I seem to have inherited the, you get up here too.
No, it's all right, you work better alone.
I seem to have inherited the publishing, or rather printing end of the newsliner from Phil Jordan. Phil and Edie were really busy with some personal stuff. And since it's printed right in Manchester, and I drive the place 4 times a day, it seemed logical that, guess what, I inherited it. But having done the last issue, I sort of became aware of the cost of stuff. So I thought it was worth just letting you know where we are and getting a feel for what you thought we ought to do in terms of membership fees. It breaks down. The actual magazine this time is a $1.80 Bear magazine, and then there's